Test. Oh, good. Good morning. Welcome to another beautiful time with Mark Nepo. If you were here last night, it was a very special time, and his friend Margot is here to also set a tone and storytell and so forth. I wanted to draw my name is Bruce Kellogg. I'm the minister here at Unity of Vancouver. Just a couple of things, housekeeping-wise. If you've noticed within your bulletin, there is a drawing for you could win a copy of More Together Than Alone. I just wanted to let you know that, and you can place that out in the, there's a white box as you leave the sanctuary to the right. You can put those in there. And also just to draw attention to the flow of the day. That's also included. We'll have our first break at 11 o'clock, and then we'll have a lunch at 12:30 until 2. And then, well, it's self-explanatory. Just wanted to draw attention to those minor details, but also wanted to just take a moment and for us to just have an agreement to be present and to allow your energy and your presence to be fully here. So I invite you to put aside anything that you may have in your hands or whatever you're giving your attention to at this moment, and just be present. Open yourself to be receptive to the flow of the day, the flow of consciousness of Mark and Margot as it flows through them, and to have a two-way flow of love and gratitude for this day and for each other, everyone in the room, as we build conscious spiritual community together in this place. For as Mark said last night, that we are all cells within the body of humanity, and that if we keep our energy up, that it impacts and affects the whole. And so that is a joyous opportunity for us today. We give thanks for this wonderful opportunity to expand our knowing and our awareness. We give thanks that we are all consciously being led and guided for the highest good. So it is. Amen. I'd like to invite Janet Law up to say a few words about her dear friend, Mark Nepo. And so she's known him for quite some time, so it's entirely appropriate for her to introduce him.
Thank you, Bruce. And I just want you to know that in Mark's world, I think we're all dear friends in a beloved community that is gathered here today in this formation. This formation may never come together in this way again, so you being here is important. I am very honored and very grateful and have much joy in my heart that we were able to bring Mark back to Vancouver. And he has been enjoying his time here. The water, the calm and still forest that he gets to walk in, and the beautiful clean air and mountaintops that he gets to look at every morning when he wakes up. I've been aware of Mark's work for a while. I saw him for the first time in person at the Oprah event in Seattle, and I was in awe of his ability to hold the container in this large space. And last night, we were able to do that in a smaller space, and there was no difference. I then had the opportunity this past year to spend a year with him in his smaller group called the One Life You're Given Journey. And so it was a joy every 3 months to go and do some deeper work. And what I have to say is that you here today will get a little sampling of what that experience is like, to be with self in your own community and then in the larger community. That's what Mark is really good at. He's written lots of books. He's had much experience in his life as a professor and as a beloved human being of this great planet Earth. He acknowledges Mother Earth and Father Sky and everything in between. And so it would be a disservice to not welcome him in the person, in the being, in the soul that he is. And so, with great pleasure, I would like to have us begin our day with the beloved friend of this community, Mark Nepo.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet and Bruce. That's really touching and beautiful. I feel very welcome among you. And thank you for all taking time out of your lives to gather like this. So let me give us a sense of our day, and then I'll invite Margot to open us with some of her playing, which last night we mentioned would be a kind of heart theme, her tune "Morning Rain," and then I'll read a poem to start us. But let me give you a sense of our day. So first off, my job when I'm with you like this is to try to open a heart space that we can enter together, by which you can get further introduced to your own gifts and your own wisdom. And so, en route to that, there'll be lots of time for us to talk and share. And I invite you to ask all the questions I can't answer. Okay? It's important. We'll talk more about that. But my other job is to start more things than we can finish, so that what touches you in here spills out of this room into the rest of your life. Because when we gather like this is a resource, not a refuge. From the beginning of time, people have stopped in the stream of experience to stop and say, what's going on? How do we do this? And we need each other in order to get back out into the stream of experience. I imagine back in cave times, when they thought they were hunting and gathering, and then all of a sudden the mountain lion started hunting them, and they were chased back in the cave, adrenaline pumping, out of breath, and then somebody in the corner said, what are we doing? Is this all there is? Is this it? So formally and informally, we have always paused to try to see what sense we can make about how to be a spirit in a body and time on earth. So we'll get more into the rhythm of the day. As we do things, we'll be going through themes, and then we'll have opportunities to probably try an exercise in the morning and an exercise in the afternoon, and then we'll have conversation in a group. But we'll get to that, more of that. But right now, I'd like to invite Margot to open with our heart theme with her wonderful drumming, and this tune of hers called "Morning Rain." Thank you, Margot. So I want to open with a poem It comes from a book of mine of poems called Surviving Has Made Me Crazy. Good kind of crazy. And, as we talked last night, and, I believe that the heart is the greatest teacher. That the heart never lets us down. And one of the paradoxes about the heart is that when it's most sensitive is when it's at its strongest. That's when we know it's a finely tuned instrument that's working well. And we don't know what to do with that fine tuning. Whether it's joyous or difficult, we often feel that the degree of those feelings and the degree of that sensitivity is overwhelming. But that's a sign that the heart's doing its job. And it's our job to listen and learn how to expand the heart and to be with what it's bringing us. So this is a poem called Today I Feel the Pain of the World. My dog's hips grind where no one can see. She wants to keep up but has to sit. I take her home, pet her for a while, and go for groceries where the old man packing bags is staring off. I know by his heavy silver eyes he is a widower. And just as he lifts my no-fat cottage cheese, he sees her floating somewhere before him. And the soda and the swordfish and the English muffins are piling up as the black belt keeps moving. And I gently take the cottage cheese from his hand, and he returns, looking at me, a bit dizzy to still be here. He sighs, rubs his eye, and asks, paper or plastic? And I help him bag what no one can bag. After putting soda in the fridge, I eat out anyway, and next to me, there, a small woman trying to be heard while her large partner pretends nothing is wrong. She knocks over the salt as he butters his bread. He shakes his head and wonders who she is. And beyond them, in a booth over by the window, there, an elderly couple, and it's clear they can't speak, so they sign each other, and their faces are lively with yes and no and in between. And suddenly, over coffee, the man sees something across the road, and he's full of joy, pointing and smiling, wanting his wife to see. It could be a hawk opening its wings, or a burst of light budding on a thin maple. His wife never really sees, but he thinks she does, and he feels relieved. I realize we are all this way, whether seeing dead faces at the register or butterflies behind light poles. Sometimes the skin of mind is torn, and we are no longer separate beings. Once the talking is done, we point and point at the proofs of love for all we're worth. I feel more today than one being should, and can't tell if I'm in trouble or on holy ground. And at least for me, whether I can tell or not doesn't matter. It's to stay there as long as I can, because that's when I'm most alive. So we're going to go through a rhythm where, I'm going to be sharing kind of large patterns and stories from all this research I've done about community through the ages, and then we're going to go to our individual lives, like where does that live in us, large, small, so that, because the only thing I've discovered, the only way that things remain abstract is if we don't personalize them. There really isn't anything abstract. It's abstract when it's over there. As soon as we bring it closer, it becomes real. So I want to start with just talking a little bit about the nature of solitude and community, about the nature of aloneness and togetherness. So I remember, years ago, I'm 67, but way, way back when I was in high school, I remember feeling very confused and like something was wrong with me because, I remember that I so wanted to be included, normal adolescent thing, and be with others. And then as soon as I was, oh God, I couldn't wait to get alone. And then when I was alone, I couldn't wait to be with others. And I thought, God, what's wrong with me? But later in life, I learned that this is the rhythm of solitude and community. It's very natural. We only have to look to whales and dolphins as great teachers of this. Those magnificent creatures are air-breathing creatures who live in water. We take this for granted, but just think about that. And so what do? They are restored and renewed in the deep. No matter how long they can stay under, they have to break surface. They have to be in the world, and no matter how long they breach surface, they have to go back under. And this is a great teacher for us about our life between solitude and community. We have to renew ourselves in the depth of life. All the spiritual traditions speak about it differently. But for me, I believe, like those whales and dolphins, we have to be in the world. Now, the personal rhythm of how long you need to be in the deep and how long you need to be in the surface, that's for you to discover for yourself. That's what self-reflection is. That's what the work of self-awareness. You have to assess, and it can change, obviously, over a lifetime. There are times when we need more time in the deep and times when we need more time in the world. I have a rhythm. I love to be here with you, and I have a time during the year when I'm home, which is great time at home. But apart from whether I'm with my wife and my friends, I can be home too long. I can be in that solitude too long, even though they're both essentially the same space, because I need to break surface. I need to be out here with you. I need that connection. So the first thing is, and again, as I did last night, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to try to give you questions, invitations to be with beyond today. If they speak to you, you can note them down and look at them next week, next month, so that there's more. So the first one is, what's your current rhythm between the deep and the world? How much time do you need in the depths, and how much time do you need with others? What's that look like for you right now? And is it balanced? Do you need more time in the deep, or do you need more time in the world? Nothing wrong with either of those, but you have to assess what's the right rhythm. And imagine your soul is like that whale or dolphin. Okay? So the other thing about the nature of aloneness and togetherness, they are like X and Y chromosomes. We need both. Each has its gift, and each has its shadow. Each has its liability. So the gift, and I mentioned this a little bit last night during the question and answer session when I talked about presence and meaning, but let me frame it a little more deeply today. So the gift of solitude is we all have our direct experience of this mystery, of God, of any name you want to give to what's larger than us. And there's no substitute. It's your direct experience of life that is heartening and enlivening, empowering. And how do we access that? Well, there's so many ways, but essentially it all comes down to presence. Being present. Lots of things pull us away from being present, but how do we return? When we are fully present, we restore our direct experience of life. Now, that's always there, available to us. Now, the shadow of direct experience and solitude is life is so much more than just my experience. We all tune into the same experience, but it's a paradox. It's so much more than my experience. So if I'm only left to my own experience, oh boy, I think that's a lot of what's going on in different pockets of the world today. People are in their self-enclosed bubbles. So, because when I'm being centered, I can be steadfast. But we all know this. In a second or a hiccup, all of a sudden that steadfastness has turned to stubbornness. How'd that happen? I often don't know, but I know that's when I need others. There's a great Zen saying that says, when in an argument, never side with yourself. Yeah, because we need more than just our own opinions and convictions. In fact, the word paradox literally means, paradoxa means beyond opinion. It means the truth that exists beyond our maps of knowledge. So, on the other hand, there is this magical, we all know this equally sacred, magical thing that comes from connection and relationship. All the traditions speak about it differently. In the Christian tradition, it's where two or more are gathered. The Holy Spirit comes into being. In the Buddhist tradition, it's the notion of a sangha. In the Jewish tradition, God is known as an indwelling presence that is only manifest through relationship. It's dormant until we're in relationship. But again, the shadow or the liability of connection is, we want it so badly that we'll give up everything we know to get it. Could have done years of work to have our own direct connection with life and God and mystery, and then I want your love, and you turn, oh no, I'll throw it away. Just love me. Don't go. And we'll just dishonor ourselves. So we have to be aware of these things. So as we go through this day, I'm going to ask you to be aware of how these things live in you. To be aware of times when your steadfastness has turned to stubbornness. To be aware of times when this wonderful, magical connection of relationship has turned into unhealthy codependence. I'll do anything. Just love me. Marge Piercy. Anybody know Marge Piercy's work? Wonderful poet, still alive. And she has a little poem called The Friend. I can't recite it exactly, but its essence is imprinted on me. And and in a lot of expressions, it's exaggerated to get our attention. So it's just two voices. One voice says, I love you. And the other voice goes, oh, that's nice. I like to be loved. Then the first voice says, oh, I'd do anything for you. And the second voice says, oh, have you cut off your hand? And the first voice says, oh, I would do that. Oh, that's lovely. Have you cut off your hands yet? That's the poem. Whoa. So it's pretty obvious in the extreme. The second voice doesn't say, I love you too. So what are we doing there? What kind of relationship is that? But all we have to do is back off her example and substitute it in the spectrum of normality, and we see how we give ourselves away. It could be a family conversation, a partner relation, a friend relationship. Oh, I love you. Oh, I like to be loved. Oh, I'd do anything to get to have your, oh, good. Well, you know those friends you always see? I don't like your doing that. Would you give that up? Oh, sure. I don't like when you go off on your own like that. Would you give that up? I like it when we're together. Are those legitimate requests? Only you could ask that. But you see, she brings it back into the range of normalcy. So now let's go large a little bit here. And I want to bring in some of the notions of community so we get a sense of some of the larger themes here. So the first, there are great teachers from nature, and one of the great teachers are aspen trees. Anybody experience aspen groves? Has anybody? Yeah, a couple of people. So I chanced to be brought to some aspen groves down in New Mexico. And, aspen groves can be, hundreds of square miles. But what's so amazing about aspen trees is that underground, they all share one root system. So in essence, they are one of the largest single living organisms on Earth. Above ground, they are individual trees, but below ground, it's all one extended, entangled root system. This is an amazing natural metaphor for the life of community. Even as we're sitting here, each of you is an individual tree, if you will. You have your own life, your own heart, your own mind, your dreams, your pains. But in the invisible, unseeable ground of spirit, we have one root system. So this gives an added meaning for the noble function of compassion and kindness. It's not just to be altruistic. It's that if there is something ill about my roots, it affects your roots. You have to care about it. Otherwise, the whole damn grove is going to go down. We are inextricably linked. And we are unique. This is another. So a paradox. I talk about paradox a lot because paradox has been one of my greatest teachers. And the way to understand paradox, I think, simply is it's any moment where more than one thing is true at the same time. And the mind wants to solve paradox throughout history. No matter how brilliant a mind you have, the mind wants to go, is it A or B? How do we do, which one? It's a seesaw. Now, if I got to choose, let's put one up and one down. But love and suffering open the heart, and the heart is asked to hold seeming truths without judgment until the heart releases a deeper logic of spirit. And that's how it stays our teacher. That's how it stays our teacher. So another natural metaphor comes even closer into the body, and that is the bloodstream. So we all know blood is made up of blood cells. But this wonderful, very obvious truth about the bloodstream and blood cells is you can't have blood cells unless there's a stream for them to live in. And unless you have healthy blood cells, there is no bloodstream. And humanity is made of healthy cells. But unless we are all connected in this circulation of love and generosity and compassion, there's no place for the healthy cells to live. So they depend on each other. Within that, we continue to talk about the teacher that is circulation in the body. Now we all